You're tuned into the A Train Sports Talk podcast. I don't know what happened to my music bed. That's what happens when you try to be the Jerry Jones. Some things you just mess up. Trust me, I've had my share of it. But I am elated today on this Wednesday afternoon. I go back with this gentleman that's on my screen, him and the Wild Man. Those of you who've been wondering, like, who is this Scott Styles guy? He keeps talking about him, saying he's the reason he's the A Train Sport. He is part of the duo known as Scott and the Wild Man Willie. They gave me that name A Train, and I used it. As a matter of fact, Scott used to rib me. Who does a podcast for 15 minutes? Well, thanks to him, I've grown beyond 15 minutes. So I want to welcome my good friend and my brother, as I call him, Scott Styles.
Thank you,
Sir, how
Anthony. Appreciate you, man. You've come a long way. I'm proud of you. I'm like a proud papa.
I appreciate you too, man. It took a lot of hard work to get to this because who would have thought we'd be looking at each other doing a video podcast?
I know. It's
Man,
crazy.
think about it. I'm 57 years old, and they say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But then when I look at it, I'm not walking around on four legs. I'm walking around on 2 feet. So that means I'm not a dog. I'm a human. So I'm trying to learn this stuff, get better at it each and every day. I want to thank you because I want to go back to my experience I had because I believe had it not been for you, I probably wouldn't have seen Sunrise Christian Academy live in person. You made that happen. So now we got this event coming up called the Air Capital Hoops Fest. I want you to elaborate on that.
Well, it's the third annual. First year we had it at Charles Cook Arena. Last year we had it at Fringe University, and we try to spread it around to the local universities because it is usually televised on ESPN format of ESPN Plus or ESPNU, whatever. And this year it's at Newman University this Friday and Saturday. Game times Friday are 6 and 8 p.m. and Saturday games have been moved back due to telecast rights at 4 and 6. So Sunrise will play at 6 Saturday. Yeah, it's just bringing some of the top teams in the Nike League across the United States, and it's hard to put into words and appreciation of these are young athletes, still high school students that you're going to see on the NBA floor and Division One level, elite athletes someday playing at top-notch Division One schools, and yeah, it's just a real honor to be a part of the program. And I've been the voice of them for the last, I believe, 5 or 6 years now. I came in right before Grady Dick and Mark Mitchell and those guys came aboard. It's been really nice to be a part of that and watch the growth of the program. Kyle Lindstad is now the coach who started the program. Back in the day, his dad, Dr. Rob Lindstad, started the school back in the late 80s, early 90s. Kyle, as you know, left Sunrise, took the assistant job at under Greg Marshall, then left the Coach Marshall staff at Wichita State and was the assistant coach under Rick Pitino Jr. at the University of Minnesota. When Rick Pitino Jr. got fired at Minnesota 4 or 5 years after Kyle arrived, Kyle became a scout for the the New York, Boston, or I'm sorry, Brooklyn Nets, and was a scout there. And then when Luke Barnwell, who took over for Kyle Lindstad, became the assistant coach at Texas Tech, who, by the way, is having a phenomenal year. Luke's really proud of Luke. Kyle came back to take over the program again. When you did come with me a few weeks ago, you saw a lot of banners up there, National Gatorade Players of the Year, All-Americans, McDonald's All-Americans, and you got Buddy Hield, who a lot of people recognize that name, who's in the NBA. Grady Dick's now in the NBA. You got a lot of quality players playing Division One level and in the NBA that have come through Sunrise Christian.
Absolutely. So, who are some of the players? Because I know you mentioned some players that we all know name wise, Grady Dick, Buddy Hill. Who are some players on this current team that we should be keeping our eye on? Because when you
Uh,
invited me, I'm not going to lie. When I walked in that gym, the first thing is I'm looking up like a person on a tourist trip in New York looking at all these skyscrapers. I'm like, oh my goodness. So, who are some key players that we should keep our eye on this team?
Well, so my guy, I really think, and he's only a junior now. He's 6'7". He'll graduate in 2026. But Chidi Wigwe, he's on everybody's list right now. He's going to be a top 20, 25 player next year when he comes back. He's in the top 50 right now. He's a 6'7" guard. Just can jump out of the gym. He can be a wing, 2 or 3. He's really good. You got Ivan Juric, who's also 7 foot. He shoots it from the outside. You've seen him play. Croatia kid. You have the twins, the Gallagher and Gavin Placidi. They're 6'11" from Colorado. They're juniors. So there's a lot of great kids. And Jacob Walker, who is one of my favorites, he's a guard. He's only 6'1", but he just has one of those batteries that doesn't stop and plays hard, out hustles people. He's the guy that's going to get on the floor and do the dirty work and dive for the loose balls. And then you have Aiden Chronister, who's a guard. He's 6'8". So they have a lot of size and height that starts on this team. Their length really helps them shoot from the outside over smaller guards. And obviously the 3 is really relevant to these guys, but they also play great defense.
Right. And the day I got to watch them play, first time in my life, the first thing, if a person has never been to Sunrise, see them play, before you get to the gym, you are going to be enamored by trophy case. I mean, trophy case, this might be an exaggeration, but it could be at least 2, 3, 4, 5 miles long. Oh, and then they also have a little spot for the girls. And I ran into a couple of the girls a few weeks ago, and they say they're just as good as the guys. So I'm definitely going to have to reach out to them. But we're talking about the guys now. Are there any players on the other teams that you might be aware of that we should also be keeping an eye on, since this is the air
Well,
capital?
I don't have the full rosters yet. I do know that the teams that are coming in this year. I believe I got a list the other day that there's 28 or 29 kids in the top 100 going to be playing in this event. Several of them last year. I'll just tell you, several of them last year were projected to be in the top 10, 15 in the NBA draft coming up. That was just last year. So you're going to see a lot of quality kids playing that have already committed to schools or are still narrowing their school process down, because NIL money is so relevant in today's college game, which disheartens me a little bit. I always like growing up knowing that Larry Bird was always going to be a Celtic. Magic Johnson was always going to be a Laker. I can go on. Karl Malone, John Stockton were always going to be, who they were. Michael Jordan's going to be a Chicago Bull. I mean, they were lifers. And even at the college level, Nick Saban said it best a couple years ago when he retired, that he needs kids in his program 2 or 3 years to get the most out of them and to get them in a program, get used to the program and the way he wants them. These one and done or moving. I mean, there's kids now that are going to have a resume that, realistically, with the COVID year and all that stuff, some of these kids are going to have 5 different schools in 5 or 6 years. And
Right.
now that they've changed the rule where junior college does not count towards eligibility, that has really changed the dynamic. And it really, because I was a junior college kid, I signed with Iowa State. I decided not to go to Iowa State the last minute. The coach that recruited me took a job at Hutchinson Community College. Never heard of Hutchinson Community College. Said, hey, I need a quarterback. I left Iowa State and went there. And 8 weeks later, I played my first college football game that started as a freshman. Well, as you know now, Hutchinson Community College just won the second national championship in football this past year, beating Iowa Central. Really proud of the Dragons. But now you can play 2 years of junior college football, get that experience. Still have 4 years of eligibility left. Or you can play 2 or 3 years of college football or basketball. So you know what? I don't like where I'm at, or I had an injury. I'm going to come back. I'm going to go to junior college, rehab for a year or play for a year. That won't count towards my eligibility. Get re-recruited and see if I can make more money in the college level. There's six SEC quarterbacks this year that made more than Brock Purdy. Six SEC quarterbacks.
Who would have thought? I mean, I know a lot of us, either on one side of the fence, college athletes should get paid. You think about the money that these schools make, but who would have thought that we'd be seeing basically NFL free agency at the college level? And speaking of the junior college, because you had hipped me to, or had educated me to, what they got going on out there at Sunrise. So they got the elite team, they have the postgraduate team, and they also have the regular high school team.
Right.
So tell me, how does that postgraduate work? Because you said something that kind of struck out, especially with this new ruling that they made for JUCO. So the postgraduate, they can decide to come back to avoid going the JUCO route.
One more year. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Sunrise has had that program for a while. It's a great program where if they don't feel like they got recruited or they need to work on something, they can stay there, start working on their college credits, and stay there in the system that they trust and believe, know the people. Some of these kids come from far away to go to these schools, and they build a family rapport at Sunrise. That's what I like about not only a Christian faith, but also a family faith as well. And those kids who maybe not accustomed to that style don't want to leave that secureness, that nest. And I get it. And so they'll choose to stay there another year and go through the be on the post grad team, and try to continue to develop and hopefully get picked up.
That is what caught my attention right there, because that was something I'd never heard of. The fact that the school can have 3 different programs and all of them playing at such a high level.
High levels.
Now,
Yep.
what I want to do, because I think we pretty much laid it out, Sunrise. We've laid out the tournament coming up. I do have one more question before I shift gears, because I know you're a big Cleveland Browns fan, so I definitely want to get your take on that. But there was one player in particular you said was offered by Wichita State. I forgot who that player was.
So that was the Aiden Chronister kid, and
Okay.
then also Aiden Chronister. He's only a junior, so Wichita State's really heavy on him. He's a 6'8" kid,
And I hope that
and he can shoot it, man. I'm telling you, from 3, he is deadly. Just spot up 3 shooter.
can we push the envelope, give them there like right now?
Finally got a win last night, but man, that was tough. It's tough. They tried to give it away at the end. Up 11 with a minute 50 left, and next thing you know, you blink, we can't hit a free throw, and we're only up 5, and Charlotte has the ball. That was scary.
Yeah. Anyway, those of you who don't know, y'all, Scott, his fandom. Now, he's from Ohio, so I want y'all to understand this. He's from Ohio. He's a Michigan man. Don't ask me how that happened.
Yeah.
And then his choice of professional franchise. I mean, you can't fault him for it. Cleveland Browns, not the Cincinnati Bengals, but the Cleveland Browns.
Well, in fairness, Anthony, the Bengals were not, when I was born, and my father was a diehard, going to Old Municipal Stadium for all those years. I kind of inherited that legacy of rooting for the Browns. And I was taught at a young age, you stay faithful to your team, your family. So I stayed faithful. The Bengals were formed, I believe, in 70 or 71 after Art Modell bought the team from Cleveland and fired Paul Brown. So Paul Brown went to Cincinnati, got a franchise in Cincinnati, kept almost the exact same colors at the time as Cleveland. And, so it's orange helmets and all. So, but yeah, I've always been a Cleveland Browns fan. I even had the privilege of, when I worked for Fox Sports, I did the pregame shows for the Browns or Bengals. And it was really a fun time being down there in the field, and the likes of Bernie Kosar back in the day, and some of the Clay Matthews and Ozzie Newsome and all those guys, Eric Metcalf. And so, I grew up a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. And then it was a joke when I was doing the radio show, we drafted Baker Mayfield, and I fell to my knees. I'll never forget this. I'm like, why? Now I wish I had Baker back, because Baker's proved me wrong. But yeah, unfortunately now Myles Garrett has asked for a requested trade.
And that's where we get to right there.
8 years, and I don't blame him. Cleveland's front office has been in shambles. We've this year alone, we played another 3 or 4 quarterbacks. I think so. We're up to like 44 quarterbacks since 1999 that have been a quarterback of the Cleveland franchise since they've come back into existence. And it's just, they have so many good athletes, and especially on defense, and just not being able to have that one consistent component of a franchise quarterback has totally demoralized this franchise and made him a laughing stock of the NFL, if you want to know the truth.
And my question is, what's the difference between Cleveland before they moved to Baltimore and this new Cleveland regime? What's the
Well,
difference?
if you
Because I
recall,
think they were more stable back then.
when Cleveland moved to Baltimore, they won the Super Bowl a year and a half later.
Right.
Yeah, with Ray Lewis and Joe Flacco, I was distraught because all my buddies are like, oh hey, you finally won a Super Bowl. Too bad they're wearing the wrong colors and blah 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 and all this stuff and everything. And I just the Haslams own the team. They have all the money in the world. They just I thought Andrew Berry, who's the general manager, made some good picks. We really got stacked on defense. Obviously, the phrase is defense wins championships, but we can never. I mean, we passed on Josh Allen. We took the kid from Texas A&M. We didn't last 1 year. Gosh darn it. He won the Heisman. Johnny Manziel. We took
Oh,
him.
oh yeah.
We could have had Josh Allen. Yeah, because it's just been some really really pathetic head scratching picks that just pissed me off. I mean,
And when you look at how they passed on Josh Allen and took
Mhm.
Manziel, okay, I get it. They wanted to go for something flashy. I mean, people were questioning Buffalo for taking Josh Allen, but now when you look
We
back,
passed on Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs traded up and got him. We had a chance to get Patrick Mahomes. Passed on him. Josh Allen. I mean, we've passed on so many great quarterbacks over the years to make it your franchise. And I get it. You got to draft somebody and you got to stick with them. Realistically, look what Baker did. He's done nothing but play hard and took Tampa Bay back to the playoffs when he don't have near the weapons of what Cleveland provided him. Cleveland had a running game with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, had a great offensive line, a great defense. This quarterback made too many turnovers because we didn't have that solid quarterback.
and then Cleveland also had this going on because we experienced it at Wichita State. We're just not going to name drop when parents started getting involved, and I can't think of who the receiver was. Was it a what was it, blonde? I never could figure out why brothers want to go with blonde hair. But what was that wide receiver? Uh, he came from
For
the New York Giants. Uh,
Odell Beckham?
yeah, right. He
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, my son's game is going down since Baker Mayfield's the quarterback." I mean, he basically got his son out of there. I mean,
Well, and what happened there, to be honest with you, Baker felt slighted by Odell Beckham and his dad. And then all of a sudden, and not try to get too into death, but I know for a fact the locker room came divided. I have a friend that works in the offices there in Cleveland, and he said it became a white and black issue, which sucks because some of the black athletes were sticking up for Odell, and some of the white players were sticking up for Baker. And at the end of the day, they thought they just had to eliminate one, and they thought Baker was not grown up and mature enough and should have kept his mouth shut, and they got rid of Baker. And that's how that all came about. And then next thing you know, Odell's gone too. So
right,
what did anybody win by that? No, didn't gain
nothing
anything by it.
because
Yeah.
now they're stuck with Deshaun Watson, and
Yep.
that's been a lose-lose situation.
Uh,
Well,
it's going to go down as the worst trade and signing in the history of the NFL. There's no doubt about
absolutely. Well, well, as you say, buddy, using some of your words, I want to say thank you for the 19 minutes and 11 seconds of your life that you'll never be able to get back for being on this show.
it. I
I
used to say
appreciate
that,
it
Lemon.
so
I
much.
used to say I'd rather get kicked in the balls and do that, but this was fun. Yeah. Yeah. We'll save that for
So,
another day.
right. So, now you said that this coming up weekend, you said there was a
Yeah.
game, one of the games you'll be at, one of the games you won't be. Is that
I won't
correct?
be at Friday's games. I won't be able to do Friday's games because I had an earlier engagement with my wife and family. But Saturday I'll be there in full force. Pipes ready to go for the games. I just got a call yesterday from Coach saying they moved him back to 4 and 6 because of broadcast rights and that sort of thing. So
Oh,
the games were tentatively scheduled for Saturday, February 8th at 3 and 5. They're now going to be at 4 and 6.
okay. Because I'm trying to balance out how I'm going to do this because I got Friday high school. I usually commit to one of the high school games here, and then there's a those photos I sent you, the kid that played for Resurrection School, uh,
Right.
little seventh grader. I think he's going to be a ball boy at the Friday game. Then he has the game on Saturday. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? So I will figure it out because his game is at 3 o'clock Saturday. So I can probably leave his game Saturday and
Well,
get to do.
sunrise game until 6, so you got time.
All right, then that's how I'll do it. You will
Yeah.
see me Saturday. I look forward to being out there. Uh, y'all get out, come out to Sunrise because you're gonna see some darn good, high quality basketball with some high level athletes.
And and these kids sign autographs afterwards, and you could be getting an autograph of an NBA future star, early on.
Y'all hear that? NBA future stars
Yeah.
in the building at Newman University starting Friday and concluding on Saturday. Be there or be square. Scott, thank you once again. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you, A-Train. Always a
All right.
pleasure.
All right. Once again, my guest, Scott Styles. All righty. My good friend, Scott Styles. I can't say enough about him. Full of sports wisdom. He's been in the sports know. And to think that me and him was actually going to school at Hutchinson Community College at the same time and really didn't even know each other. We didn't get to know each other until I heard his voice on the radio. And that's how this reconnect began. Matter of fact, he was on the radio with another Hutch alum. And that station has been notorious for Hutchinson alums being on it. All of them didn't stay. And I think there's only one Hutch alum that's left. And that's because he's the, I guess, station manager right now. Anyway, there was some high school basketball last night. And I am also looking forward to my next guest who should be on. So I'm going to go ahead and try to dive into some of these scores last night because believe it or not, there was a few teams that actually played on Monday and then turned around and played last night. I know that for a fact. But we're going to take a look at boys' games and how some of those scores turned out. And y'all know, as if I can't say it enough, if y'all see Joanna Chadwick at a game on a, I guess you could say a Monday night now, Tuesday night, Friday night, and whatever other night that y'all see her at a game, tell her thank you for all the work that she does to be able to get. Matter of fact, and I do have the Catch It Kansas app, but I rely more on Joanna Chadwick to get my scores to me. And that's not like she's getting them to me personally, but I personally rely on her because I know I'm going to have the scores because that's just how hard she works. And I'm pretty sure she probably has a team of people that probably help her get these scores so she can produce and publish them. But she does it in such a timely manner to where when I give out the scores, I know I'm not missing a thing. So I may sound like a broken record, but Joanna Chadwick, we say thank you. We appreciate what you do. And I said this on my show, I believe yesterday. Uh, those of you who know me, y'all seen my bio says part-time on-air personality at KFH Radio. And that was thanks in large part to, I'm gonna mention his name now, Bob Lutz or Bob Lutz, however some of y'all want to pronounce it. He was instrumental in getting the word to Tony Dusing, who wanted to get me on as a part-timer. Well, those of you who are used to listening to the Bob and Jeff show, this Friday will be the last show. I know it will be an emotional moment for a lot of people that were attached. Y'all will hear Bob and Jeff going back at it, father and son duo. Some people even would make comments and say, I think it's disrespectful how that father talks to his son. I think it's disrespectful how the son talks to his father. Can I tell you something? That's their radio chemistry. Some of y'all that were talking about how disrespectful that is, y'all gonna miss that show when it's gone. I was one of the ones that kept egging them on. I'm like, keep doing what y'all doing because this is made for radio. It's what drives the needle. They will be missed, but Bob's legacy still continues on because of what he's doing with League 42. So we want to say, Bob, for all the years in radio that you've been around, we want to say thank you. And with that being said, because usually you have Joyner Chadwick on Fridays on a weekly basis, giving insight on high school. So I also want to throw this out. Joyner Chadwick, you have a automatic time slot with me if you want it. You pick the time, and I will definitely make sure that happens at that specific time so you can continue talking high school basketball, high school sports right here. So think about it. Think about it. Let me know what you think. I would love to have you on my show on a weekly basis. Oh, and Bob, you're not out the woods either. We're gonna get you on here too. I've had you on my podcast. Now it's time to get you right here. Anyway, before my next guest shows up, which he will be here shortly, because this is going to be probably my longest show that I've done, because I promised you two guests. Scott was my first one, and my next one will be Coach Brian Chadwick of Derby High School girls basketball team. But I'm going to go ahead and start giving you some of these scores. And in the event that he should chime in while we're doing this, that'd be all the more better. We can always come back to this. But on the boys' side, Andover 65, Newton 48. Andover's Josh Kim, 17 points. Walker McClellan, 14, and Paul Evans, 11 in the win. Cole Dillon scored 31 for Newton. And that Newton program, I'm just waiting for them to get things really going under Demetric Williams. He deserves to have a good breakout season. And I hope that someday he gets the players that he needs to turn that Newton program around and get them on the track. I'm still waiting to get him on my podcast. I know that, trying to build a program out there, I have no idea what that's like, but I'm pretty sure that administration out there, I hope that they are very patient with him. I believe he's the right man for the job, and we hope that someday we'll be saying Newton, sub-state champs, Newton playing in state championship, playing in state playoffs in basketball, and it will be all worth the while for their time and patience and what they've invested in that program. I believe that Demetric Williams will turn that Newton program around. So, D, we're rooting for you, and I'm gonna bring my train into Newton and get you in, and we're gonna do this thing. So, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna get you. Anyway, Andover Central 52, Goddard 43. Brody DeGarmo had 18 points. That's a very synonymous name as well, too. We've been hearing a lot about him. Jaden Brown, 14 for Andover Central. Warren had 12 for Goddard. Augusta, 61. Rose Hill, 54. Beckham Stoops scored a game high 23 points, and Brody Haskell had 18 for Augusta. Easton Meyer scored 17. Xander Ford, 11. And Meyer McNall, 10 for Rose Hill. Caney Valley, 85. Blue Stem, 27. That was steamroll right there. Cheney, 55. Garden Plain, 41. Josh Burdick, my guy, scored 18. And Eastman, 11 for Caney, for Cheney. Garden Plains, Keaton Castleman scored 15. And Brant Long, 11. Also, congrats to Josh Burdick, who just committed, I believe, to Emporia State on a football scholarship. So we definitely want to say congrats to you. If I got the school wrong, please by all means correct me. But yeah, we say congrats to Josh Burdick. Derby 66, Valley Center 45. After Valley Center cut into Derby's lead at 32-31 midway through the third quarter, Derby went on a 19-4 run that included 11 straight points from Kel Klingon. He scored all 20 of his game high points in the second half. Jack Llewellyn had 12 points. Doc Needham scored 14 for Valley Center, and Kobe Newton had 12. Eisenhower 70, Arc City 27, Haven 44, Pratt 38. Haven's Dalton Bontrager scored 13, and Gatlin Reinhardt 11 in the win. Each also has 6 rebounds. Heston 61, Halstead 48. Heston's Reed Friesen scored 28 points, and Drew Bartell scored 10 of his 13 in the first half. Halstead's Braxton Creed scored 14. Hillsboro 54, Larned 24. Capon 76, Wichita South 27. Capon had a 75-27 lead after 3 quarters, and Corbin Johnson scored 22. Mays 69, Salina Central 43. Mays Ty Willett scored 21, hitting 5 threes. Braden Maivella 15 points, and Alan Hanna 14. Salina Central's Caden Snyder had 14 points. McPherson 59, Collegiate came up short 54. McPherson's Gabe Powell hit 11 of 15 from the floor and had 31 points, 4 assists. Ian Razek had 7 rebounds. Cade Strathman 6. Collegiate's Jaden Parker scored 14 and had 10 rebounds, 6 assists. AJ Batiste scored 13, Jack Grace 11. Mountain Ridge 51, Berrien Academy 41. Mountain Ridge's Bear Modelmog scored 12, Dixon 11, and Churchill 10 in the win. Sweezy scored 12 for Berrien. Remington 39, Marion 27. Remington's Elliot Hochstetler had 11 points. Salina Sacred Heart 54, Southeast Saline 43. Wellington 66, Mulvane 48. Mulvane's Manny Myers scored 22, and Cannon Laser had 11. Wichita Northwest 81, Wichita North 24. Ouch. Ajadius Reed led Northwest with 18, DJ Brown 17, River Peters 16, and Darian Hammond 10 in the victory. Now we move over and take a look at the girls' score as Andell knocks off Nickerson by the score of 57-14. Andell's Grimes scored 21, hitting 3 threes. Morrell scored 11 points, hitting 3 3-pointers for Nickerson. Andover 66, Newton 18. Andover Central 51, Goddard 41. Arc City 49, Eisenhower 47. Augusta 38, Rose Hill 26. Bueller 62, El Dorado 36. Caney Valley 58, Blue Stem 34. Cheney 59, Garden Plain 52 in overtime. Clearwater 36, Circle 29. Maddie Clevenger scored 12 points, and McKenna Hampton 10 in Clearwater's win. Lauren Sweeley scored 10 to lead Circle. Derby 59, Valley Center 27. After a slow start, let me say it like this: when you see these reports that says after a slow start, it's hard to believe there was a slow start when the final score is 59-27. But after a slow start, after a slow first quarter, Derby outscored Valley Center 52-21 over the final 3 periods. Carly Demmel scored a game high 13 points. Asia Fox had 12. Kelby Klingon hit 3 threes to finish with 9 points. Reagan McDonald led Valley Center with 10. Heston, 41. Halstead, 23. Kendall Brugen scored 17, and Callie Yoder had 11 for Heston. Hillsboro, 28. Larned, 16. Capon, 56. Wichita South, 43. Mays, 32. Salina Central, 29. Mays South, 33. Hutchinson, 25. McPherson, 40. Wichita Collegiate, 39. Brooke Doyle scored 15 and had 7 rebounds, 5 steals in McPherson's win. Ellie Bauer had 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and Marin Sambo had 6 rebounds. Riley Whitford, 8. Collegiate was led by Julia Herman, who scored 22 and had 14 rebounds. Boy, she was uh, a load to handle, wasn't she? And 6 blocks. And Lucy Volok had 11 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Pratt, 38. Haven, 35. Hughes scored 16 and Thibault 14 in Pratt's win. Avery Bronner scored 11 and had 9 rebounds to lead Haven. And Rylan Patry had 12 rebounds. Southeast Saline, 50. Sacred Heart, 43. Omega, 61. Abilene, 24. Wellington, 62. Mulvane, 25. Britt Zika, that's a household name. We've been hearing that name all year. And Val Norwood, that's that double team tantrum. Each scored 10 points for Wellington. Wichita East, if you want to call this somewhat of a mild upset, go ahead. Wichita East, 56. Bishop Carroll, 52. That was a good signature victory for Wichita East. Shout out to the Lady Blue Aces. Wichita Northwest, 42. Wichita North, 37. Aubrey Navarrete had a game high 21 points with 3 threes for Northwest. Paola Rodriguez led North with 11 points. So there you have a look at the scores from Tuesday night's slew of games. Uh, like I always say, get out and enjoy some of these games. Get out and support your sons, your daughters, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins. Who knows? Maybe your uncle and aunties. Depends on how that works. But you get the picture. Get out and support. Uh, I can say it like this. One of the things I am, since I've been going back to some of these basketball games, I've been to Mays South, I've been to Derby, and I plan on making some other stops before the season is over. That way, I can experience what the atmosphere is like. I have Heights on my radar coming up soon. I also have Capon on my radar. Uh, but the one thing I can say, even when I went to some of these football games, atmosphere is everything. Uh, Derby, I can say like this: Derby and Mays South, two schools I've gone to, and I've gone to Mays as well too. Uh, for basketball, they did. Uh, these schools have a culture where. Let me start with football. When you go to Derby, the best time to go there and get parking and a good seat is the Monday before that Friday. I know that sounds like a slight exaggeration, but I made the mistake of going down there, and let's just say they was already putting points up on the board, and the lights was already flickering every time they scored a touchdown. I think I had to walk 2 miles, a total of 4 miles round trip from my car to the stadium. I might be exaggerating, maybe 3 miles, a mile and a half to get to and from the mile and a half to get there, and a mile and a half to get back to my car. You look at their basketball program. When you say Derby, you cannot deny the fact that when you say Derby, the first thing you think of, as Coach Brett Flory alluded to on my show just last week or this week, uh, dang, I'm losing track of my days. But when you think of Derby, you think of football and a good wrestling program. But now when you look at Derby, it's an all sports program. They're good in football. That's the standard right there. But they're good in baseball. They're good in softball. Uh, you look at their basketball program now, and it's amazing what Coach Chadwick is doing in just his year and a half time that he's been there. And I mean, this is the same school that has also sent Addie Brown to Iowa State. Uh, when you say Derby basketball, and it starts with the girls' game, you have to get there probably before the girls' game start to get a good seat and make sure you're in there for the boys' game as well too. That's just how that culture is set, how they support. Uh, May South, I went there for a game a year ago, and it was the rival game. Their fan base reminded me so much from looking at them on TV. Reminded me so much of the Cameron Indoor Crazies. In other words, these people got on support. I went to a football game at May South. Matter of fact, I went to their carnival that they had, and the fact that I was greeted with outstretched arms and welcome. Felt like the red carpet was laid out for me. I've been to games at Andover Central for their football game. Uh, One game though that has really stood out to me when I went to see Collegiate against Cheney. And some of you who don't remember I was a band guy, so I always had ways to get into games. I am still praising Collegiate's band, and I hope whoever listens to this and has any type of connection to their music program, I want somebody to get me in touch with that band director that Collegiate had because I need to get him on my show. Me and some of the fans started chanting, "Strike up the band, strike up the band," because after they do the halftime show, they take a break, and it's like there was a lull, there was like a dead zone. I mean, their band brought the energy, their drum line brought the energy, and that halftime show that they had. Yes, I'm still talking about that glow show they had. Uh, we're hoping to be joined here shortly by my good friend, Coach Chadwick. That's why come I'm doing all this extra chit chat talking because in radio terms it's called we're killing time. But I'm hoping that once we get him on here, that he too can also elaborate more on that culture that has been set by Derby. Because y'all saw last week when or this, I believe it was, might have been Friday when I had Coach Brett Flory. He talks about culture. He said we don't want to be just, the tournament of champion winners, and you know, we want to be peaking at state, in March. But I want to pick Coach Chadwick's brain as well too, as far as his view on the culture that they have set, because that is a key word that you hear. It's culture, 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 and it is very important. It determines whether you have a winning culture, whether you have a losing culture, where you have a culture where people will actually get out and support. I mean, stop and think about it right now. And let me just pick on them. They're right here in town. Wichita State, for instance. And my schedule won't allow me to get to games as much as I would like. But when I do go, I've experienced the packed houses and I experienced the not so desirable crowds or lack thereof. And I'm gonna go on record and say this. I'm gonna go on record and say this. There are a lot of disgruntled, could care less about going to a Wichita State game fan base. I know I would probably catch a lot of backlash for that statement I just made. But I'm gonna go as far as to say it like this. There are still some, knowing it ain't gonna happen, but you got this man living in your head rent free, hoping Greg Marshall walked through those doors. And I said this on one of my other shows. It's not gonna happen. And some people have decided, because I thought it was, and y'all heard Scott say it in reference to the Cleveland Browns, how the locker room was divided, a black and white issue. I thought it was basically an Isaac Brown thing. Can I remind you of something? Isaac Brown was let go and he had a winning record. And the reason I say I thought maybe it was the Isaac Brown thing, because I seen some of the comments in the chat rooms that would suggest to me that it was a black and white thing. But now we fast forward to year 1.5 of the Paul Mills era. And instead of getting better, it has progressively gotten even worse. So there, we could check off the box and say, nope, it's not a black and white thing. It's still the fallout from the Greg Marshall thing. Now, mind you, overall, they still have a winning record. But the fan base we have, y'all need to be careful with some of the comments that y'all make, because you don't know if these young people see these comments or not. All I can think of is, I wish I was the coach. And guess what, y'all? I've been saved from running my mouth now, because I can tell he's in his car. He is geared up in Green is Magic gear. I am happy to have him on because he just saved me from getting in trouble. My good friend, coach of the Lady Panthers down there in Derby, Kansas, which I call an extension of Wichita, Coach Brian Chadwick. Coach, welcome aboard. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Sorry about that. I was trying to get out of the building so I can get out here and try to get to practice and get on your show.
Man, hey, you could have stayed in the building. Hey, I had Coach Florio, and I could tell he was in the building. I could hear the bells ringing in the background. I expect that because, hey, they be on the radio shows. And I'm like, oh, they still at work, but that what makes it so authentic. So, Coach, man, tell me something. How you feeling about your team? Because, all right, so I know y'all came up short down there in Emporia, and I've said on my podcast, I've said that Topeka Seaman team had to be a real good team to beat a Derby team by double figures. And I said, well, rebound from it, let that fuel you toward your uh, run for March Madness, and all y'all have done. And in back-to-back games, y'all have played angry. What's going on with
Yes.
that?
Well, here's the deal. We played 5 games in 6 days, and we have to get ready for another game on Friday. So our girls are tired right now, but they're working their tails off. The Heights game took a lot out of us. Really, the South game took a lot out of us. We're playing without a shot clock, and then we turn around and we fight out of that one, get out of that by 5 points, which was a great game again for South and for us just to play better. We go play against Heights, one of the best teams in 6A, and has been a powerhouse in 6A for a while. And for us just to come out of that the way we did was incredible. Michaela had a great game. We had a great rebounding game in the last 3 quarters. First quarter we didn't rebound well, but they all played well. And then to come and play against Topeka Seaman, one of the best teams in basketball. I'm not even going to say 6A, 5A in basketball. Those young ladies can play. And they've been doing it this is the second year that I remember that they have been the tops. And they have some really great players and they play hard. We just came up short. We just had a few players that didn't play great, but you know what? They came back against Junction and we played our tails off. And then we turned around and played against Valley Center, and Valley Center punched in the mouth early. We had to recover, and we finally came out. We had like a 52-20 run. Our girls are really involving. They're loving our defense right now. They're evolving
Yeah,
into a different type of defensive team. We press and trap situational, but we're man to man team, and they really get after it. Half court man to man, and they really get after it.
I was looking at Max Preps. They had a little brief article about your team, and here's an amazing stat line. You guys have beaten teams by 28 or more points on 8 different occasions. How do you do it?
Honestly, truthfully, we don't even talk about that. We just talk about making sure we score more than they do. Our biggest thing is trying to limit teams to one shot, and then we just run. We want to limit it to one shot and run. The shot clock has been a great thing for us. Last night we had a chance to get 5. We only got 2 violations last night. But we're just trying to play defense right now, Mr. Smith. We're just trying to be that defensive team that you don't want to play against.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to say is I can see growth on this team. And the reason I say that, I want to go back to game 1 because we all know the story behind game 1. Michaela wasn't available. She was dealing with a family issue, prayers and condolences at that time. And then there was another game where y'all was playing without Michaela, and it was the tale of 2 different teams. So the first time they lost without Michaela. The second time they won without Michaela. What was that growth process like?
Well, we won't say the teams were the same. One was Andover and one was Campus. Campus gave us a fit for a little bit, but what we learned is we could trust each other. I was playing a lot of young players. Remember, we only have 2 seniors. And I have 2 juniors, and then the rest are freshmen and sophomore. So they're really young. So they had to understand they can trust each other, and that's what I'm starting to see more and more. I think last night Michaela may have only had 4, and we still had 59. So I think they realize if you can trust your other teammates and everybody does their job, that's the thing. Everybody has a job to do, and if they do their jobs, we're okay. We're okay.
And that's the thing that stands out because I've seen games. I mean, if I go back to the state championship game, or if I go back to Coke Arena, and Coach K, she said it best. She said it's something about arenas, and Michaela just shows up at arenas. But I want to talk about. I'm going back to that first game because the one that player that stood out, number 25, Tawana Carter. Tell me a little bit about her because I know she's an underclassman, but she seemed to play beyond her years, and she seemed like she had some leadership qualities. Tell me a little bit about her because I know she's a new player to the team this year.
Sienna is a great player for our program because Sienna does the little things right, and that's odd for a freshman. She's very vocal. And in the beginning, I had to say, Sienna, wait before you start talking because I wanted her to say our verbiage. And she was like, Coach, I was like, no, you're okay, but I want you to say it like we say it. And then when she started understanding it, she was like, oh, now I get it. So now she's verbal and she gets in people's ears and she can play. She plays 1 through 5, really. She can play. She can play the 1, but I have her playing a post position. But I have to really move her because she's not. She's starting to shoot the 3 better. She's going to be a 2 or a 3. She'll be a wing player for us next year, but she can guard 1 through 5. So that really is an asset as well. She just brings some energy that a lot of teams don't have. Because when we go to our bench, we go to her. We go to players like Maya Harris. We go to Malia Lansing. We go to Kelby Klingon. We go to players that not everybody has. And our girls can really do some great things there.
And and since you mentioned Malia Lansing, once again, like I did on my show yesterday while I got you on there, I want to say congratulations to her committing to
Yes.
Bethany. She is well
Yes.
deserving of that. Uh,
Hmm.
and I'll say it like this since I got you on here. Not only are they getting a good player, they're also getting a good athlete. You are molding these young women beyond the basketball court. And I want to say like this: your players are very appreciative of people that support them, and they are
Thank you.
also very welcoming. I appreciate when I come out to Derby. I feel like I'm amongst friends and family. That means a whole lot. Like I told you in the
Yes.
text message, I brought my wife out there, and matter of fact, one of our church members, his kids go to school out there, and so I'm like, he's the perfect fit because every time he sees me, he's all about. I'm like, hey, how you doing, Reverend Smith? How you doing? You ain't got to call. You can just. I'm happy just being Anthony, but I mean, it's the culture that y'all have out there. I do want to ask you this, and I know you can't go off of what you don't have, but if you can stop and reflect on one person who wasn't able to play because of physical issues, she's going to be concentrating on softball this year. Uh, now I can't think of her name. You know exactly what I'm talking.
Carson.
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 Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
what element of her game do you miss not seeing her on the court? Because I remember
The
last year.
physicality. The physicality she brought to
That's
the
right.
game. And what people didn't realize, she led us in charges last year. So she was just physical underneath the basket. She brought that intensity. She cheered for her team, and she was signing today for softball. So we're proud of her for that. But no, that was just, and she was just humble. She would take charges, and you don't get a big that takes charges. Biggs want to block shots, and she understood. I'm just gonna sit here and take a charge, and that's what she wanted to do. So no, we do miss that for sure. Another one we missed is Sade Jackson. Sade
Mm.
Jackson had a great summer. She showed everybody a glimpse of what she could do as a freshman last year. In the summer, she just ate up the summer league for us. We went to play in the kickoff for the Missouri summer kickoff with them, and she had a great summer. But she just tore her ACL when we did a scrimmage against Carroll in the summer, and hopefully she'll be ready for track season for them. But she'll be ready for us next year. So we're gonna have even more power when she comes back.
Absolutely. So moving forward, and I'm not going to keep you on much longer, but you played in that midseason tournament, and every time I want to see the matchup, I'm never in a position to see it. Uh, and I alluded to this fact. And I know you don't talk about this, but I'm gonna talk about it. Right now, you are 3-0 against GWAL. But how did a tournament like the one you just played in? How does that prepare you for your run to Coke Arena?
Well, it gets you to play 3 games in 3 nights. That's the one thing. And then it gets you to play the high caliber teams. So our kids had to be focused mentally and physically for that. And it helped us build some more culture. We got to know some of our girls that we really don't know because we don't know a lot of those freshmen. And you get to know people when you have to sit there and eat with them, or you see them in the morning when they don't look the best for the breakfast. And you get to see them how they respond after a loss. And I thought our girls really responded well.
And you said they was tired and having to play these back to back games, but I couldn't tell they was tired. It's like we're ready to get this loss behind us, whatever it takes. So you have two back to back games, way up in Junction City. Then got to
Yes, sir.
come home, barely sleep in your own bed, and you back out on the court again. At least you get a
Yes,
little
sir.
bit of time between now and Friday. So you said they were
Yes.
tired, but to me, it would seem like they were just ready to get that loss behind them and just play ball.
They were tired, we could tell, but what we did was we used 9 players early, like against Junction City. We scored a lot of points in the first quarter, but we used 9 players in the first quarter. And then we used 12 the whole game. So we want to make sure we're using our young ones that we have, giving them a chance to get on the court and showing us, and then giving our other ones some breathing room, because it gets tiring out there. We know I'm not. I've been doing this way too long. I want them to have this incredible game every night, but they really can't, especially when you're fatigued or when you're tired or when you just it's cold. They can't. It's been 70, and all of a sudden it's 32 or 22 like it was yesterday. So it's getting to them.
I could attest to that cold weather. Well, Coach, I want to say wish you the best of luck the rest of the season. I
Yes,
do have a
sir.
few games penciled in on my schedule if I can make them. Uh, I know I'm kind of busy this weekend between going to the Air Capital Hoop Fest. I just had Scott Styles on right before you. Uh, also,
Nice.
also passed the message on. Uh, you know, your wife, she's a fixture on the Bob and Jeff show on Fridays. Of course, we
Yes,
know that
sir.
show is going away this Friday, so I've already put it out there. Make sure she get the message. If she wants a Friday time slot, we could do this on a weekly basis right here.
I
That
will,
way, we
I
can
will tell
always
her.
get the voice out for high school basketball because she is
Yes,
so
sir.
relentless. And I always tell people if they see her, tell her thanks for what she does because I mean she steady gets us the scores, the information that we need. I'm pretty sure there's a team of people that's helping to get these, but at the end of the day, she's doing the hard work. As she's like Tom Joyner, she's the hardest working lady in sports business. So you
Yes,
pass
yes,
that along,
yes.
and I want to say
I
good luck
will.
to this season. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you. You take care, sir.
All right. Once again, my other guest, Coach Chadwick. We appreciate him. And I told you this show was going to be longer than normal, but it was well worth it. Y'all got to get insight from Scott Styles, one of the best who has done it in radio and who is the PA announcer out there at Sunrise Christian Academy. Coach Chadwick, who's doing this thing out there at Derby High School in just a year and a half. Uh, if you haven't seen this team play, go see them play. You need you need to go see his team play. And like I say, I'm trying to between now and the end of the season get my because about the only games I can go see are the Friday games. And this weekend, like I say, probably out there at I'll be at Newman University. I got William I need to go check out. I have stops at Cape and I need to make. I might even just decide to take vacation day from my job just to check out a game on the Tuesday. I almost feel like I need to do that. But anyway, this has been, I'll have to say, this far since I've been doing the video side, this has probably been one of my best shows. Uh, I appreciate the interviews. I've had Jason Marks on, I've had Coach Brett Flory, but this is the first time I've had two guests on one show. I'm still learning this stuff, and it's only going to get better. I do have a nephew that does his Facebook. It's a YouTube thing, so I'm gonna try to learn some more of this stuff. That way, I can probably even insert videos while I'm doing it, if that's possible. But I want to say thank you to everyone who tunes in. Share the video. Like I say, we're streaming right now live. We're streaming live on Twitch.tv and two YouTube channels. And hopefully in the future, I might have to just pay for a subscription, but I'm gonna upgrade my X account so I can also stream on X as well. Uh, but once again, like I said yesterday, thank you to all the parents who allow me access to be able to interview the student athletes. Thank you to all the coaches who come on the show. Uh, my show would not be what it is without you. I even also want to send a shout out to Sunflower Smack Talk. They probably don't even know why I'm doing this. But the fact that you are also advocating for women's sports, women's basketball, women's softball at the high school level, I want to say I appreciate and applaud you for the job that you're doing as well too. Yeah, I always say I have the number one podcast in the state of Kansas, but I also say it's not me; it's my guests that make it number one. But I'm also saying like this: I'm not competing with anybody else because if you're doing the same thing that I'm doing and advocating and giving these young people a voice, then you are worthy of the honor and praise that I give out as well too. So, like I said, there's no competition; it's all love. Well, anyway, it is time for me to get out of here. Hope you have enjoyed the show today as much as I've enjoyed bringing this show to you. Like I say, share it. You can subscribe to my YouTube pages as well too. Like whatever, share it multiple times. I don't care. Make it go viral. Uh, I look forward in the future to having some of the student athletes on as well too. because this is the way we're going. And also the show will be podcast as well too. I did a show yesterday, I haven't podcasted yet. As a matter of fact, I haven't even shared it yet. So y'all are going to see multiple shares. Y'all going to see yesterday's show. Y'all going to see today's show as well too. I appreciate y'all. Be safe. Stay cool. Stay smooth. Be blessed. Be a blessing. Until next time, I'm out of here.